My name is Rachel. I am a British mum of two living here in Jordan. Today I want to speak about nationalism. Something that Europeans and Americans could really learn from the Jordanians is that you can be nationalistic and love your country, and you can also welcome in foreigners and love foreigners, especially those who are in need, like refugees. Jordan is home to 1.4 million Syrian refugees, hundreds of thousands of Iraqi refugees. It took in Lebanese refugees during the Lebanese civil war, has 1 million economic migrants from Egypt, and not to mention the Palestinians who came as migrants or refugees basically from the 1940s onwards. Worst nightmare for Europeans, right? But Jordan has not lost any of its identity, and nor does it push that identity onto its non-Jordanian citizens. Jordan's nationalism goes further than the country itself, and it finds its roots in tribalism. The people of Jordan originate from nomadic tribes, which are known for their hospitality. In fact, Bedouins have a rule that if you receive a visitor, you're not allowed to ask him why he is there or what his purpose of traveling is for 3 days, which essentially means that you, a stranger, are invited into my house for a whole weekend, and I'm not going to ask you who you are, what you're doing, or anything about you. You're just fully welcome for a whole weekend. Now imagine that in terms of foreign policy and accepting foreigners and refugees. I might be reaching a little bit, but for me, I think of this as being how Jordan's society and its laws and foreign policy and everything have been built on the foundations of that Bedouin hospitality and the tribal hospitality that existed here for thousands of years. So this is just one example of how Jordan's great history and its great tribalism could have laid the groundworks to deal with situations that could literally make or break a country and a society. For instance, when thousands of Palestinians fled to Jordan during the 1948 war, the East Bank and the West Bank became united, and that was to ensure that there would be no future aggression against the Palestinians, and also to ensure their rights and their position in Jordanian society. That meant that they became Jordanian citizens, and they were allowed to own property and to get work and to settle here. It was a very humane thing to do, and yet has anyone done anything else that's similar to that? As a general rule of thumb, Jordanians are very nationalistic. But when I say that, I include the Jordanian Palestinians as well. In fact, when I say Jordanian nationalism, really I mean nationalism that exists in Jordan, rather than it being something that's intrinsic to nationality. And Jordanian nationalism doesn't equate to any kind of hatred or hostility like it does, say, in England. In fact, if the British faced any kind of demographic situation that Jordan does, then there would be riots in the streets, there would be a revolution, it wouldn't happen. And foreign policy has been designed especially to ensure that that would never happen. Basically that's to hold on to whatever is British or British values. But Jordanians prove that if your culture and your values are united and strong enough, then they can withstand basically anything. And however big or small you are in population, your culture is going to thrive. Yes, of course, there are going to be problems everywhere, and there are going to be certain people that view certain other people in certain kinds of ways, and that's just natural wherever you are in the world. But it would never lead to a clash in the street over the concept of values or identity like you see in England. Completely opposite to England, Jordanian nationalism is something beautiful, and it's something that you want to get involved with. Something that is quite rude is to seem ungenerous. And in England, we are the masters of seeming or being ungenerous. Oh, funny. So in England, you pay your own way for everything. If you are going out for a meal, you go Dutch, which means that every person pays their percentage of the meal, and it's split evenly. If you borrow money from someone, even if it's a couple of quid, like even if it's a couple of dinars, they're probably going to come back at you and say, where is my money? And it's like really bad manners if you're not the one to initiate giving back the money. And even like if you go in a car with somebody, they expect you to pay your portion of the petrol, for instance, if it's a road trip or they're giving you a lift to work or something like that. That is so not cool in Jordan. That is so rude.
it's unbelievably rude here to do something like that. Once when I was at school, I had borrowed a jumper off somebody and I hadn't given it back within a reasonable time, and I was wearing it and she saw it and she said to me in front of everybody, "That's my jumper, I want it back now." And she meant now. So she made me take off the jumper in front of everybody. I was a teenager, that was so embarrassing. You take off the jumper in front of everyone and give it back to her. That's the level that we're at in England. In Jordan, someone will take the clothes off their back and give it to you if you compliment it, if they think that you like it. It's totally opposite. Keep that in mind when you're doing social activities with Jordanians or with Arabs, because they're not going to understand that concept of like individualism to that level.
Assalamu alaikum, guys. Really hard to know what to say because it's such a controversial topic. There's that was putting me off, it will come as a surprise, and where I come from in the UK, the UK generally isn't very friendly towards Muslims, to say the least. Where I'm from is very cut off, it's very isolated, and people are very kind of freely phobic. I'm very much aware of the opinions of people towards these things, and I know how they will feel about this. And that stresses me out. I don't want people to make judgments about me and to say bad things about me and things. This whole process has been very personal, it's been very private. At some points it's even been lonely because I haven't wanted to open up subjects with people because I know how much people can influence what you're thinking and things, and I wanted to come at it from a very organic perspective, that I wanted to get all the research done by myself in the beginning and then start hearing other people's opinions and weighing them up based on some kind of foundation of knowledge. I only started speaking to my husband about this 6 months ago, maybe less than 6 months ago. Started like tiptoeing around the subject but not actually using any keywords. But this is I've had the belief since last year. And it's actually been a process of reconciling myself to that as well, because I have grown up between being atheist and being agnostic. And I think that I was always agnostic, but I would claim to be atheist because that's, it's not cool in England to have faith. Definitely not in the circles that I was running in. People like to believe that, there's no purpose to life and we're worm food at the end of it, kind of thing. And that was what I always said. But I think people who know me really well know that that's not really what I believed. But my problem was that I couldn't accept the things that I was being told about the faith that I was born with. It just never made sense to me, basically. And then when the kids were born and I started thinking, well, they're being raised Muslim, never kind of said that I have a problem with that. Was very happy for them to have a faith because it's very lonely growing up without a faith. I think that it's really, really important. Coming from somebody who had no faith, I knew that very well, that it's very important to have a faith. So I started learning purely for them, and I just wanted the information, basically, and it turned out that the information made a lot of sense. Yeah, it's been a really long process, and a lot of people already guessed it because, like I said, people who pay attention or who are around me, they see that I dress modestly, they see that my values have changed a bit over time. Coming up soon, we're gonna have some videos about
pizza.
Pizza.